Now it's working. Hi, everyone. My name is Denis. So I'm working at Relics Solutions as a DevOps. I reside in Helsinki for more than 2 years, actually. I'm really passionate about Kubernetes and networking in Kubernetes. And also obsessed with niche internet aesthetics. It's something more personal about me. So first, a few disclaimers. Despite the name, I haven't yet adopted Envoy Gateway anywhere outside my home cluster. And the second one is this presentation is free from any form of generated content. So no images, code, text, and so on. Just believe it will be an important disclaimer in the future. And let's start with what is Gateway API. So Gateway API is a new thing, new proposal, and new API in Kubernetes, which will replace Ingress API, inevitably replace. And it covers L4 and L7 layers of networking, and also it's supposed to do all the traffic, so south-north and west-east traffic. So if you're talking about like service meshes, the Gateway API will cover it as well with Gamma initiative. So it's available in 2 variants right now. The standard channel, which is stable, and it contains some resources which you can use, such as gateway class, gateway, and HTTP route. And there is also experimental channel. An experimental channel contains everything in the standard channel, plus some experimental resources which can change in the future, TLS route, UDP route, and TCP route, something like this. So this is roughly what this Gateway API is. And then we move into the second part. It's what is Envoy? Envoy is a proxy server built around 2016 by Lyft. And Lyft is a competitor to the Uber in the United States, I believe. Maybe in other countries they have services as well, but mainly the US. And they decided to create a new proxy server because the existing ones was not enough at that point. So 2 main points from the Envoy documentation is that network should be transparent to the applications, and when network and application problems do occur, it should be easy to determine the source of the problem. And it's I think it's really important because nowadays we have a situation where we have like a few proxy servers chained before the workload, before your customer or client doing the request to your cluster, and there's like at least 3 usually because you have load balancer, then you have ingress controller, maybe some API gateway, and something else. So this is where Envoy was actually started to be really important when you have one proxy and you're trying to use to everything, and you get the metrics from around one place, and you see where the problems occur in the networking. There is a list of some features of Envoy. For example, it covers L3 and L4 level of OCI model with the TCP, UDP, HTTP, TLS, all good stuff. And there is also custom protocols available. So for example, Postgres, Redis, Volkey, and Kafka, for example. There's a few more, which actually really important sometimes, because if you want to proxy your Postgres traffic through the Envoy, you will get the metrics about the SQL requests and the delays and so on your between your SQL client and SQL server, for example. And the same for the Redis. And for Redis, if I'm not mistaken, you can even create a high availability Redis cluster without the Redis built-in high availability features. So you can use Envoy as a load balancer in this case. And the same for Kafka as well. It's aware of topics and it provides you metrics about the requests. So L7, HTTP L7 level covered as well. You have buffering, rate limiting, all the good stuff. It supports HTTP 1.1, 2, 3, and I think you could even enable 1.0. So I think it's disabled by default. And one of the coolest features about Envoy is service discovery and dynamic configuration. Because you have an API, REST API and gRPC API, and also file-based approach to put configuration to your Envoy instance. So this is really cool, and this is what we'll talk a little bit more in the next slides. So there is observability capabilities, Prometheus metrics exposed basically by default. You can extend it with Lua filters, some Lua plugins, or WASM, and it's written in C++, which is understandable given it was written in 2016. So good choice. So this is maybe the first kind of caveat to the Envoy proxy. It's the bare bone configuration, for example. And this is just the first slide. So it's in YAML. We expose in some ports, and this is not really good. This is not really sustainable because you can write it by hands, but it's not really easy. So more like Envoy hyvin näin Envoy konfiguraation tiedoston. So which translates to I don't feel well when see Envoy configuration file. It's really huge. But to be fair, it's designed to be generated manually. It's just a last resort if you want to do something manually, of course. But yeah, this is just big. But really powerful and pretty straightforward if you start. And now a little bit more about differences between Ingress API and Gateway API. So this is, so protocol support. Ingress only supports HTTP, HTTPS traffic. You can do some TCP routing, UDP routing, but it's like with the workarounds. But for gateway, you have L4, L7 covered. Traffic management, it's limited for the Ingress. You actually don't have anything in Ingress to do it. It's actually a responsibility of the Ingress controller itself. For Gateway API, it's built in. Portability is pretty bad for Ingress. It's the same objects, but you can just apply it to the different Ingress controllers because of annotations. It works until to some extent if you have pretty plain Ingress objects, but no. It's really hard to move between Ingress objects, Ingress controllers, especially if you have special annotations. But in Gateway, it's common standard. So there's no annotations. Everything is the object itself. Resource objects, in Ingress, you have only Ingress, which is actually really nice and really easy, and also Ingress class. Yes, there's two types of objects. And it's pretty straightforward. And with Gateway API, you have definitely a few more. And this is where it's a little bit harder to start moving from the Ingress to the Gateway API, but we got you covered. There is some tools to do it easily. Routing as well, path host based for Ingress, and also header-based for the Gateway API, which is really nice. An extension is, for Ingress, it's only annotations, as I mentioned, and for the Gateway, it's written in the specification. So, and why we are moving from Ingress? It's limited. It requires some workaround, annotations, and it's not. It's incompatible between different implementations on Ingress controller. Only HTTP, HTTPS traffic. No header-based routes, and that in general gives an outdated vibe, to be honest. And Ingress API is frozen right now. It's from the documentation, so there will be no more features in the Ingress API. So we are moving to Gateway API. Yeah, and mainly because of this. I don't know. It's not the problem of the any Ingress controller, it's just the problem of the object itself. You need annotations. Then in this YAML file in annotations, you have string with JSON or sometime Lua or another like configuration language. This is how usually it's done in the Ingress. It's just a made up example, of course, because I don't want to point any Ingress controllers here. It's just the limitation of the Ingress API itself. And now Envoy Gateway, the main focus of this presentation. So it started somewhere in 2022, and it can be considered as an official implementation of Gateway API on the Envoy-based Gateway controller. So, and it's not only supports the Gateway API, it also provides the extension API to configure Envoy proxy in addition to Gateway API. Because Envoy proxy is really powerful, have really a lot of features, and Gateway API can't cover all of them. So there is also a separate extension for this. So, and inside Kubernetes, it's pretty straightforward. You just installing the Helm chart, for example, and then starting applying your manifests. It's that easy. There are some examples, a link to the examples, and CRDs for the experimental channel of Gateway API included. So pretty straightforward. And worth mentioning Ingress to Gateway tool, which helps you to convert your Ingress objects to the Gateway API representation. And it's this tool requires, you can just give it a kubeconfig file, and it will read all the Ingress resources in your cluster and will output the Gateway API representation. And you specify the provider. For example, a few of them supported, Ingress and Nginx, maybe one is most popular, but also IP6, Cilium, Istio, Kong, whatever. So give it a try if you're thinking about it. Can be really hard to start moving because you're thinking, okay, now I need to rewrite this YAML file to different YAML file. It can be hard, but here you will get representation, and this is already what you can try in your dev cluster and move forward with Gateway API. So, and you also can patch Envoy configuration. It kind of resembles like Lua snippets for Nginx, but with dedicated Kubernetes objects. It's called Envoy patch policy. It can be dangerous, can be unpredictable, but sometimes you just need to configure Envoy in a different way, because there's a lot of things you can configure in Envoy. So this is one of example where you specify the target, which is your gateway object in Kubernetes, and then patching some fields. Regex supported, you add in some include atom count in response to true, and you will get the count of the responses in the headers. So yeah, it's the most basic example, which can be showed on one slide. And outside Kubernetes, this is actually the thing I really excited about, because not everything should be run inside Kubernetes, I believe. And Envoy Gateway have a experimental feature which called Envoy Gateway standalone mode. And it's basically, since Envoy Gateway is just a nice and easy way to configure Envoy proxy, you can use Gateway API files and store them not in the Kubernetes, but on the disk, and don't have any Kubernetes at all. So you're running the Envoy Gateway as a process on your VM, for example, and at some directory you just put in Gateway API files, and it just works. I even implemented Compose Gateway, which is configuring, which is basically gateway controller, but for Docker Compose. It uses annotation, by the way, which I was talking about. But yeah, you can add annotations to your containers in the Docker Compose. It reads it and creates the path. It will generate the gateway API objects, put them on the disk, and then the Envoy Gateway will read them and serve them. There is a link. You can check it. It's maybe a little bit dangerous because you need access to the Docker socket from inside the container to read the container's annotations. Then also you are running it as a root and so on. So be careful, but you can give it a try. It's implemented with some Bash and Pickle from Apple. So yeah, if you're interested, just give it a try. And now a little bit about the community of Envoy Gateway, which is, in my opinion, really important when you're starting moving to some of the tools. We have Slack. I'm pretty active in the community. We have Slack and especially channel gateway users. And there's also community meetings every Thursday from 8 to 9 finish time. So, and if you want to find more details, you can find them in Slack. But in general, every Thursday, we attend in the community meeting and just talking, just asking questions and so on. Everyone's welcome, of course. But if you don't want to join the community meeting, you can always ask in Gateway users channel. Just any questions about Gateway API or Envoy Gateway in general. And the conclusions. So Ingress API will be inevitably deprecated. Gateway API is here to stay. So, and maybe it's time to consider it and start planning, and maybe add the Jira ticket to your backlog, and maybe consider it as a something to the backlog, because at some point this is the goal of my presentation, because last time I talked about Gateway API, it was different presentation. One of the from someone from the audience, when after the talk, come up to me and said, "Okay, here the Jira ticket in our backlog to try Gateway API," which is really nice. This is what I'm trying to achieve. And Envoy Gateway specifically is a nice way to start your Gateway API journey, in my opinion at least, because of community, because of a feature set, and just it's a really nice product. And yeah, I would like to give a few thank you to Mariam, one of the organizers who always telling me about call for papers, and I decided to give a talk like one day before like the end of call for paper. So it's really nice that she remind me. Lucas, one of the organizers who helped me with ticket refund, because I had my ticket already and got a speaker one. Erika and Arco, they are members, they're working at Tetrate.io, and they helping with community, Envoy Gateway community, and Arco, one of the active maintainers. They are really nice. They're always in community meetings where you can find them, and they help me with talk proposal, because I ask, what you think would be important to ask. And of course, thank all of you. Such an amazing audience. Yeah, that's it. Of course, there are some links if you download the presentation. And do we have a question section?
Yeah, we have time for questions. So I've asked Denis, can you please repeat the question so we have it on the...
Sure, I will try. The question is, when do we know when the Ingress API will be deprecated? We don't know. Maybe I don't know, actually. I don't know. But I think it will be a long process. It will be quite hard because everyone based around this. So yeah. But in my opinion, it's better to start now to search to look for alternative gateway API. The question was what the use cases for the standalone mode in Envoy Gateway. So actually, sometimes sometimes we don't need Kubernetes for something. And for example, you can implement with standalone mode, you can implement your load balancers in the cloud based on VMs. So instead of paying to the cloud provider, you can sometimes need to build it your own load balancer capabilities, which will be configured to access maybe your Kubernetes cluster or different VMs and so on. So this is, I think, the main point is to have the same gateway API as we will have it in Kubernetes at some point, and be able to manage the load balancers with it. So this is why I like this idea so much. So you are not touching the Envoy configuration, for example, you're just using it. And if other proxy servers will do it, it will be pretty beneficial to maybe switch between them, because if you're moving from HR proxy to Envoy or vice versa, you don't need to rewrite the configuration if it supports the gateway API, for example. It's a good idea, in my opinion. Let's see how it's going to evolve. Yeah.
So there is also a LLM extension for gateway APIs. It's one of the Kubernetes things. Do you know what is that and what are the use cases for serving LLMs with that?
Yeah. So there is a gateway AI, Envoy AI gateway. I actually don't really know, but I think the main focus right now is, since we have a lot of AI companies and a lot of different APIs between them, we're kind of trying to put some proxy in the middle to be able for maybe filter the prompts. Or maybe also, for example, they squeeze the context, or maybe route between different levels, between different LLM types, which is sometimes cheaper for some users. We want the cheaper one, maybe someone. And this is the point, I guess, but I don't really know. Yeah.
Yes, so the gateway API is partly stable, partly experimental. Your gateway is experimental, I would say, as I understood. If I write a Helm chart now that should be used by many people, can I write gateway API resources, or should I stick to Ingress? Say the community is ready for this.
Okay, the question is about the stability. Can we summarize it like this? About the stability of Envoy Gateway and Gateway API and the channels. So I think the standard channel is stable. It's in general availability. So the Gateway API at least. Envoy Gateway is stable as well, and you can use it in production. And more personal, I think you can already start. If I would write the Helm chart right now for something, I would add the Ingress plus the gateway capabilities, just both of them, because I believe we'll need it to do it anyway at some point, and maybe it's better to do it right now. Is it answers question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the second part is about the support of like other gateways and clusters in the world. I guess most of them don't have the controller that supports gateway at the moment.
Okay. Question about the support. About the support of Gateway API. So actually, on the Gateway API SAIX KTS.io, you have a list of the implementations of Gateway API by different controllers. There is a few of them actually, and some of them have they specify, is it beta, is it alpha, or is it GA? How they implement it. So there is already a few robust things, and I think it's pretty safe to move to the Gateway API. Yeah. Thanks.
About gateway API and service meshes like Istio. So is the idea that in the future you will be able to describe all the setup of a service mesh with the gateway API?
Okay, the question is about the Istio, and would it be possible to express the service mesh settings in the Gateway API? So it's hard to tell. It really depends how Gateway API would evolve, because I think this is idea. This is idea to cover the networking and Kubernetes and service mesh as well. And since the Istio, for example, already using Envoy, it's maybe should be pretty straightforward to move it to the Gateway API. But since I never worked with Istio too much, so I don't really know how easy it would be. And
They are supporting that already. They are deprecating the Istio API to gateway
oh, really?
in the favor of the gateway API.
Yes, thank you. So there was a comment from the audience that Istio already deprecating their some Istio API and trying to go with Gateway API. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We're almost at time even, so very perfect time.
Thank you. Thank you.